Alright class, so today we're going to be going over a glazing demonstration. Make yourself comfortable because I'll be here for a minute. So with glaze demonstration, when I go over glazing, the first thing that you need to understand about glazing is that all these glazes have different materials inside of them. Some have nepheline cyanide, some of them have Guernsey borate, Edgar's plastic kaolin. You have cobalt carbonates, you have tin oxides. You have a lot of expensive materials too. These 10 glazes, they probably are about $1,500 to $2,000. They're really expensive. So if you kicked over a bucket, that's like $200 worth of glaze that you just kicked over. So the first thing I ask you to do, I have 3 rules when it comes to glazing. 1, you keep the glaze area clean. 2, you do not cross-contaminate. And 3, you always wipe your bottoms, because you would not want to be the person that walks around school and be like, oh, that kid doesn't wipe his bottoms, right? That'd be embarrassing. So, and also, if you don't wipe your bottoms, your pot will get broken, you'll owe me $10 for a glaze run fee, and you have to start over, which that would not be good. So I don't see any benefits to that. So you have all these different materials in all these different glaze buckets, and they all melt at different temperatures. So just say clear. All the material in clear has a melting point maybe of 1,000 degrees. And then you have floats blue, and we'll say that has a melting point of 3,000 degrees. Well, if you came in and you read the board today, you will know that we fire to, the temperature to Fahrenheit is 2,200 degrees, and cone, we fire to cone 5. Now, there's a lot of different measurements of heat, how to measure heat. There's Kelvin, there's Fahrenheit, Celsius, cone. The 2 that we use are Fahrenheit and cone. This will be on the test, so you need to remember this. We glaze fire to cone 5 or 2,200 degrees. So, in order to get clear up to 2,200 degrees and to bring floats blue down to 2,200 degrees, you need to add fluxes. And those are made up of silicas and metals that bring up or down the melting point. And so as a result, when you get one glaze into another glaze, it can change the chemical composition, and it can alter the way that the glaze acts and the way that the glaze changes. So did I say that one of the rules was only have one lid off at a time? Okay, so the rules are keep the area clean, wipe your bottoms, and make sure that only one lid off at a time when people are glazing. So now when you look inside the buckets, it might be very deceiving the color that it's going to turn out. Just curious, what color do you think that's going to be? We'll get a look at that. What color do you think that's going to be after it's glaze fired? You'd think it would be a brown, maybe a red, maybe amber or nutmeg. Well, actually, it turns to floats blue. It's this color, the bottom one. See that? So they change quite a bit, the color. So don't be deceived when you look inside. If you look over by my cylinder, where all the cylinders and cups are, underneath them, they're all labeled. Those are all the different glaze colors that we have. So when you're trying to determine what color you want your pot to be, look at the color and then look over there and find what color it actually is. Because this one looks black. What color do you think that one is though? It's actually honey. So this color here, that honey, that turns from black to honey. It changes quite a bit. So make sure that you always look at the bucket itself, not just the lid, because sometimes if the lid gets put on another bucket, it doesn't change what's inside. You want to always look at the bucket itself. So when you glaze, the first thing that you do is you take a drill. Now you guys should be very lucky because 2 years ago when another teacher was here, they used to have sticks, like painting sticks, and they would come over the bucket like a witch over a cauldron and they would stir it. Well, I believe we're a little more civilized than that, so we use a drill. So today I'm going to teach you guys how to glaze your projects. And here's an example of two glazes that were overlapped. Okay, that ran. That was honey and floats blue that ran off the pot. It's really pretty. I don't know if you can see that. That looks awesome. It's a beautiful color. The only problem is you change the chemical composition. So it changes the chemical composition, brings down the melting point, and when a glaze gets thick, it has more tendency to run. When you overlap two glazes, it has a tendency to run. Let's see. You can also overlap glazes. That's okay. But you need to make sure that it's okay first to do that. Now I have a couple examples right here of test tiles. The reason we do test tiles is to see what different colors you can get with the glazes you have. Now, this here is amber. I dipped this whole thing in amber all the way down to the bottom. And then I dipped it halfway up with floats blue, and it gives me that color. This is my favorite color in our class. This is my wife's favorite color. It's honey and nutmeg. Which one is the bottom glaze, or which one is the base glaze I put on first? Nutmeg. And then I did honey over the top, and it gives you that pretty color. This one here, which one is the base glaze? Is it clear or is it floats blue?
Clear.
It's clear. That goes a pretty color there. So if you look at the bottom, you'll see the different names on there. Just know that whatever the bottom color is, that's the base glaze. That's the one that went on first. I'm going to teach you how to glaze now. So you have Hannah's pot here. Hannah, what color would you like your pot to be? Do you like any of these?
Yeah, the blue one.
You like the blue one?
The blue, yeah.
Okay. Would you like these to be blue and this to be brown? Or would you like the bowl to be blue and these to be brown?
Probably
Seashell.
the bowl to be blue.
Okay, sounds good. So what we're gonna do now then is we're gonna glaze this whole thing. Now, I recommend, especially with your pinch pots, that you glaze these with glazed tongs. Glazed tongs are just tongs. Don't put these on your hand because they're really sharp. You could go straight through your hand. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to dip this in amber. So I'm going to come over here. You want to get out of this? I just don't want you guys in the video. You can get up too if you want. You can get up. So yeah, stand up over here and then come over here and watch this. Just so when people are watching this online, they want to be able to look in and see it. So I'm going to mix this up for about 1 minute. During the meantime, hey, what's going on? You getting anyone new? Oh, you going to Lagoon over the weekend? That's cool. You going to the Mountain Men Rendezvous? I am. You know, you can have fun, talk, get to know people in the meantime. After you glaze it, you take the drill out, tap it off, and you stick it in the sink, turn the sink on, clean it off, spin this, and this should be completely clean. What happens is if I were to get this and it had a little bit of glaze on it, and if I stuck this in the clear bucket over here now, what that would do, that's like me taking a blue food coloring dye and then dropping it into a gallon of water. It's no longer clear. It's gonna have a blue hue to it. So you want to make sure that it is absolutely clean when you do this. Now the easiest way to do this is to grab this and then I'll go underneath for 3 seconds. If you're going to overlap two glazes though, I recommend only doing it for 2 seconds. Okay? So we're going to overlap this one with a blue glaze, so I'm going to do it for 2 seconds. 1001, 1002, I pull it up. I put this on the lid itself, lift off, come off of it. One of the things that students have a tendency to do is they put the tongs on and then they pull it off, but they scrape the glaze, and it leaves a line there, and it doesn't look very nice. So, do you want this whole thing just to be blue? I think it would actually be nicer if it was blue. I think it would be better too. So, what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna let this dry for a little bit. Now, normally I want you to let it dry for at least 2 minutes, okay? It's dry right now, but I want you generally to let it dry for 2 minutes just to be safe. I have the floats blue. Now, if you come over here and look at this, the floats blue is not deep enough for me to actually dunk it in there. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get a pitcher, and I'm going to have to actually pour the glaze over the top of it. And this is easy to do. Get that off. Okay. And what I like to do is I like to have the try not to get anyone else in it. What I like to do is I like to have the lid as close as I can to the other bucket. And then what I'll do, I'm gonna grab this, grab the pitcher, make sure there's anything I missed, do you see? Okay, so we'll tilt it up just like that. Put that over, tilt it upside down, immediately let it off, come up. I'll blow on it a little bit if there's any like thick areas that I see. And that's pretty much glazing. All I'm gonna do now is when this dries off, I'm gonna wipe the bottom. I'm gonna make sure there's no glaze on the bottom up to 1 inch. So when you glaze your project, if you don't know what 1 inch is, if you come over here, this is about a quarter of an inch, not 1 inch, excuse me. A pencil is about 1/4 of an inch thick. So if I put this against the bottom of my pot, there should be no glaze from 1/4 of an inch down. And that will protect you so the glaze does not run onto the pot. But just remember, the most important thing is wipe your bottoms.